Good evening, welcome. Pam, would you please call us back in order? We're out of executive.
It is 5:41 and the meeting is back in session.
Thank you very much. Mr. Guerrero, will you please lead us in the pledge?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. Item 1.4, approval of minutes.
Motion to approve?
Second.
Any questions? Mrs. Robles. Ms. Solis. Mrs. Quintanilla.
Aye.
Dr. Graham.
Aye.
Mr. Fierro.
Aye. Item 1.6, open forum. Anybody sign up, Sandra? Thank you very much.
Item 1.7, presentations by individuals, groups, and organizations. Item 1.7.1, there are no retirees tonight. Item 1.7.2, optional presentations will be made by the presidents of the Classified Staff Association, the Professional Staff Association, the Faculty Association, and the Student Government Association.
All right. Anybody want to go? Oh, okay. Good evening, welcome.
Thank you. Good evening, Dr. Serrata, members of the board and of the cabinet. My name is Lori Hoffner, and I'm the vice president of the Professional Staff Association. The PSA Humanitarian Outreach Committee conducted a very successful coat drive for the El Paso County Sheriff's Department that culminated on Monday, February the 16th, when the Sheriff's Department representatives came here to the boardroom to accept coats for children, women, and men, and various cold weather items. The PSA Elections Committee, currently chaired by Ms. Emma Hernandez, is on track to elect the PSA Employee of the Year. We will vote for one of 7 nominees from Friday, February 27th to the Monday after spring break. Dr. Serrata very kindly made time in his packed schedule to meet with PSA officers and committee chairs after the PSA General Membership meeting. Thank you, sir, for reserving some time for our meeting and getting us into your schedule. Last month, PSA discoursed on the practice of non-competitive appointments. We note only one in this month's agenda, but into a temporary position, which we have noted must have had an excellent justification for its existence. We recognize that the unforeseen does happen, and we again state our objection to most non-competitive appointments. Thank you for your time and your kind attention. Have a pleasant evening. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Dr. Serrata and esteemed members of the board. Last month, the faculty expressed their concern over non-competitive appointments, and were pleased to find the advertisement during the month of February. However, we still have our reservations. Although the college is indeed within legal parameters regarding said announcements, we feel that positions as important as these, which could indeed carry grave consequences not only for the faculty, but also for the college, beg to be advertised for longer periods of time. Since we have known, for instance, that Mr. Hendry was planning to retire for well over a year, that particular position could have and should have been advertised long before now. We also view with concern the fact that there is yet another non-competitive position listed in today's agenda. On another point, we would like to remind the administration and all of our colleagues that communication is of the utmost importance within any institution, and that the free flow of information is necessary for the good of all. Since we are an academic institution, the give and take of ideas and beliefs must be uncensored. Additionally, the simple act of imparting important information to all employees is critical, and it cannot be assumed that said information will be passed on by word of mouth or by any other means through the auspices of anyone other than the office from which the information originates. Many, many years ago, I became victim of the failure of the college to impart critical information, as have been many of my colleagues before and since. Before I decided that I could do more students more good at EPCC than at UTEP, I was fully vested in Social Security. However, no one thought to tell me that upon stepping over the EPC threshold, I would automatically be enrolled in the Texas retirement system and thus lose my Social Security benefits. That one little omission of information changed my life forever. Just think, had I heard those 7 words, I could very well have been minding my own business, basking on a beach in the Bahamas this very evening. Think about that. In addition, we recently experienced a situation in which information was not uniformly dispersed and utter chaos ensued. So please, would everyone be aware that every decision will ultimately affect every single employee and many more than we might have originally believed. We thank you for your kind attention.
Thank you, Dr. Ramirez.
I don't think you forfeit your Social Security.
Welcome. Good evening.
Hello, Mr. Fierro, board members, and Dr. Serrata. My name is Rocio Fierro. I'm the president of the Student Government Association. I'd like to introduce some of my fellow SGA members.
Hello, my name is Rebecca Fierro. I am the vice president of Student SGA.
My name is Marvin Reynolds. I am the Rio Grande campus representative. I also hold seat in various committees within the campus.
Mr. Reynolds, I was expecting you to say Mr. Fierro, too.
My name is Freddie Ali. I'm a Rio Grande campus rep. I also serve on the Institutional Improvement Committee and the Retention Committee as well.
Welcome.
Thank you. We wanted to talk about some of the things that SGA has been doing, and one of the activities that we've done is going on a trip to Austin on February 2nd and 3rd. We took 6 SGA members, including myself and Darcy, which was there as an advisor, and we went to talk to our representatives and advocated on several bills, such as having a tax-free week on books for students to make it easier. And we also talked about the appropriations with EPCC, about the budget cut that EPCC has suffered, that will be suffering, and the decrease, the putting a cap on tuition for students, about tuition always going up, and maybe putting a cap on it so that it doesn't keep raising. We also talked about open carry, and that's something that we all felt that EPCC should not have. The representatives were really good about agreeing with us, and it was a good feeling knowing that everybody agreed that campuses should not have open carry. It is not a safe place. It wouldn't feel like a safe place if somebody had a gun and if they were allowed to use it. So we were all talking about if the bill passed, that if there was some way that each of the colleges would be able to say, yes, we want it, and no, we don't, so that each college has the right to choose. And this was a great experience for us. We got to talk to the legislators and see how everything works at the Capitol. And that was one of the things that we've done so far. Some of the other things that we've been working on is having another student union at the Northwest campus. And I know that's one of the things we talked about in our constituency meeting with Dr. Serrata. We also talked about having different improvements within the student government and the clubs and making it a better overall experience for students at EPCC. And yesterday was a really big event for student government. We had Shattered Dreams, and I would like for Ms. Jones to talk a little bit more about that.
Good evening. Yesterday we had an event on campus called Shattered Dreams, which is an alcohol awareness program, which is a docudrama, and our SGA students also participated in that. And with that particular event, we did have what we want to call 3 victims and 1 DWI person. And we had one individual, which was trauma level 1, which actually flew out on a helicopter and went to the hospital, and trauma level 2 went by ambulance to the hospital. And then the 3rd person died on the scene, and then the DWI person was actually taken to jail because of the accident. The impact that we wanted to have on the institution and the students that observed it was the consequences of when we have underage drinking or driving with someone that has been drinking. The accolades that we have received, as well as the publicity that we have gained, I think is phenomenal for the institution. It's the first time that that particular program has been held on a college. Normally, it's held in the high schools, and the individuals that we were working with, which was UMC, the Strong Coalition, TxDOT, and various other community service organizations, actually sent me an email this morning and told me out of the 12 years that they've been doing it, this was the first time, not the first time, but the best program that they had seen within the community. So with that, I'm extremely proud of all those that were participating in the program. Our Trauma 1 and Trauma 2 victims were these 2 right here. And so they had the opportunity to actually go down to UMC, and we had nursing students there also that had an opportunity to observe everything that was going on in the trauma emergency room 1 and 2. And for them, it was an awesome experience as well, because they probably would have never had the opportunity to go in the room, be in there with the emergency room doctor and see those procedures. They actually even took some of those nursing students and had them performing some of the compressions and so forth to try and revive our victims. They had the opportunity to go in and witness death notifications that were being given as well. Our law enforcement students, our EMS students, our fire students all had an opportunity to go out there and observe those processes and learn. So it was an awesome experience for all of them. All of them had an opportunity to see what their career fields would be like. At the end, we actually had a nursing student that came up to me and she said, I know I was going to be a nurse. I didn't know what type of nurse I wanted to be. I actually thought I wanted to be an intensive care nurse, but I've now decided I want to be an emergency room nurse. I said, so with that being said, I think the program was really good. You can see it on YouTube. It was streamed. I do want to thank Jenny Hiron and her staff, Pat Ebert, and all of them that were out there helping to stream this so that the college community could see it, as well as it being on YouTube, so that the other people within the community can see it as well. It was a pretty realistic, as close as we could get, docudrama, and that's exactly how we wanted it to be, with people realizing that it was not a true incident. And so, having it being conducted in 12 other high schools, and we're the first college within the nation that I understand, it makes El Paso Community College proud.
Congratulations, Ms. Jones. I saw it, the media coverage was unbelievable.
And I have to thank, I just lost her name, Joyce. I have to
She'll
thank
wear a
Joyce
name tag
Cordell.
next week.
Oh, okay. But I have to thank Joyce Cordell and her staff as well, because I know that they each sat down and called all the directors of each one of the TV stations so that they could come out and make sure that we had coverage of it as well.
But there was also great coverage in social media, too. So congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Dr. Leon, is there going to be a link on our website for this YouTube video? Thank you.
Good evening. Well, I have a small address that I need to address to you all, to everyone in here. With the appropriations bill issue, it really hit home very hard. I come from an environment where a lot of people that I know could not afford education. Unfortunately enough, with the master plan is being, in jeopardy, a whole lot of things are going on to where that we were informed. it's also another thing is in jeopardy is also our youth. It's the time, people to come. If we don't consider the following, the one thing before I get into that, the one thing that I will address here in the future is the students that will be graduating from their senior classes and the juniors as well. They have to know that this issue is also in your hands, and they will be highly informed to the very, very best of my ability and my colleagues' ability. So please consider the issues that's yet to come for these students so they can afford college. It's bad enough our economy is on shaky ground. So please, again, just consider very, very heavily about what we're going to do with these tuition and fees, especially with these book fees. These things are very, very important for us so we can afford to go ahead and make a better life for ourselves, because one day we have to replace you all. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your time, and that's it.
Thank you.
Item 1.8, communications, none. Item 1.9, Board of Trustees business. Item 1.9.1, the Board of Trustees will deliberate on nominating a replacement for the Board of Directors of the El Paso Central Appraisal District. This seat is to be for the Lower Valley Director of the CAD Board. Each governing body that has a Lower Valley representative is entitled to submit a name in nomination.
If there's somebody on the board that would like to serve, anybody?
I might represent a little bit of the Lower Valley.
Yeah.
Mr. Dunbar?
Yeah, suffer my interruption here. The CAD board, of which this institution has no representation on now, what this seat is, as I understand it, is whoever this board picks will be considered by the CAD board among other Lower Valley reps. So if, for instance, the school board in that area could do it, and the thought being that you are looking out tax-wise for the various districts in the Lower Valley. So it probably would be best if you had someone that represented the Lower Valley or a portion thereof. I don't know. I mean,
Well, sitting up here right now, yeah, I have some and you have some. If it's between you and me, I choose you.
I second that.
There you go. We have a motion and a second. It's Ms. Solis. Next one.
although you may not be chosen,
No, that's what I'm hoping.
Let's hope she is.
you're just on level 2 of the grievance. So
Do you want me to call the question?
There's no motion.
Item
Yeah.
1.9.2, the Board of Trustees will deliberate on an agreement with KCOS and the City of El Paso regarding usage of the area at the Administrative Services Center presently leased by
Do
KCOS.
that. You were in. It's all yours, Mr. Dunbar.
Well, as the board knows, these negotiations have been going on for some time. The college first received notice of this in very late November. I've been reliably informed that the city has had this for over a year, and so we came, comparatively speaking, somewhat late to the process. And as the board knows, this would give KCOS the right to sublease a portion of the space they now have. It doesn't increase the space that we now lease to KCOS. Dr. Serrata and I have, and Mr. Gallardo have been rather heavily involved in this for several weeks, and I think we have the best. It's the best of the worst. It is not an agreement that anyone is entirely satisfied with, but the determination has been made to go forward with it. So,
Okay, a motion to approve.
Second.
There's a motion, a second. Any questions?
Well, will the agreement be provided for us to review, or is it not subject to review by the board?
Yes, but all it is and I can, matter of fact, you, I think, would have to sign it as the secretary anyway. All it is a consent of the landlord to permit, if you will, the KCOS being the tenant, the college being the landlord, and the city, which would bring in equipment for usage by KCOS. That's the sum and substance of it. We're just agreeing to
allow that to happen.
So it doesn't increase the space that you now that is now subject to that lease.
And the revenue, does it give us revenue?
There wasn't revenue tied to it.
Oh, okay. Never mind.
Okay. Any other questions? Pam?
Mrs. Robles. Mrs. Robles.
Aye.
Ms. Solis.
Aye.
Mrs. Quintanilla.
Aye.
Dr. Graham.
Aye.
Mr. Fierro.
Aye.
Item 1.10, Board Reports. Item 1.10.1, Treasurer's Report, January 31st, 2015. No action is necessary. Item 1.10.2, President's Report. Item 1.10.2.1, Dr. Sarata will report on the steps taken to revise the college grievance procedure.
Chair Fierro, members of the board, at the direction of the board, as well as the encouragement of several of our constituency groups, we've met on a number of occasions, Dr. Graham, myself, as well as Mr. Dunbar, to review and to start looking at the potential of bringing in a third party to review our college grievance procedure. Mr. Dunbar has provided, and I'll ask that Mr. Dunbar go ahead and provide a summary, but he has provided a letter to the Board of Trustees and copied me on the current procedures and the work that we're looking at in contracting with TASB, if I'm not mistaken. Mr. Dunbar, please.
There will probably not be a written contract with TASB, but one of their staff attorneys who deals with community college issues, TASB is, as you might imagine, has its membership is more directed to independent school districts than to colleges, but nonetheless, they do have someone that deals with that matter. Now, as to grievances, the same law applies in the Labor Code to all state agencies and all subdivisions. So in looking at this, we have pulled down probably, I'd say at least 5 and probably much more, 8 or 9 ISD procedures. And just for fun, I thought I'd look at the University of Texas policy and procedure on that. In any event, we are working on 2 model grievances, and also I'd be remiss if I did not mention that there has been work done on this in the recent past by employee relations. So we have several people involved in this, and a commitment for what I view as a neutral party to look at what our efforts might be in TASB. This is all subject to revision, change, and what have you, but that's the status of it right now. Thank you.
Graham?
Mr. Dunbar, we have been discussing this grievance problem or procedure that we don't, that we keep hearing about for, I think, as far back as I first got on the board several years ago. Why have we not finalized this? I mean, you handed this to us right as we walked out of the executive session, and I was trying to read through it right now, but are you going to give us something finalized, or do we need to finalize it ourselves? Is TASB going to finalize it? I just don't want another couple of months to go by and we're still talking about the grievance procedure with nothing in place.
Well, I would remind the good doctor that you and I and Dr. Serrata met last week, and earlier, I can't remember when it was, but you and I attempted to meet several
December.
months ago. Okay. And in any event, I think we're on a very good track right now. And I guess the thing that struck me about looking at all the various procedures is they really move all over the place. There's different timelines, there's different appellate procedures, and I think the one that you and I and Dr. Serrata have a consensus on is probably have a hearing officer who's neutral somewhere involved in this procedure. Now, again, none of this is final. I will probably give you what I've given you now is a very simple procedure, and then a more complex procedure, both of which can be traced to TASB because the school districts that we borrowed those procedures from both had TASB assistance when they developed it. So I think we are as close as we need to be. I mean, I think the board needs to choose one of the procedures or a variation on that. I think probably you and I and Dr. Serrata should meet one more time and put it on the board agenda and let everybody have their say.
And we'll still go through the process, the college process of reviewing, having constituency groups look at it,
yes,
being
sir.
involved.
I should have mentioned that, yes.
I just, again, don't want another year to go by and we're still talking about what it is. If you can put it together for us and make a recommendation, then by all means, let's get TASB to do it, because I know they can do it.
Well,
they
we've
have
done
attorneys on staff, and
Well, we've got one of those attorneys on staff to assist us, but we have right now, we have a procedure that many people don't like because of some of the perceived
I
complexities.
know that we all know that we don't like what's in place. That's not the point. The
But
point
it's-
is, when are we going to come up with something finalized?
I'd say by the next meeting.
Okay.
I mean, I work at the pleasure of the board, and we have attempted to work on this in the past. We're making progress now, and I would urge that we do not revisit some prior issues, but to go forward with this process.
So no editorials. Can we move on?
Item 1.10.2.2, Dr. Serrata will update the Board of Trustees and audience on recent events that have transpired at the college.
Chair Fiera, members of the board, a couple of items that I'd like to highlight for the board as well as for the staff and members in the audience. The Community College Association of Texas Trustees, as well as the Texas Association of Community Colleges, had their joint legislative conference that was held in Austin on Monday, February the 2nd. Community College Day at the Capitol was held on Wednesday, February the 3rd. The college was represented by several members of the Board of Trustees at both events. I certainly thank each member of the board that was able to make that. I know how busy your schedules are, but Chair Fierro, Dr. Graham, Judge Haggerty, Mrs. Robles, thank you so much for attending those events. Again, we know how busy your schedules, as well as other members of the board that unfortunately were not able to make it. In addition, the following week, the Greater El Paso Chamber of Commerce hosted El Paso Days in Austin at the Capitol on February the 10th and 11th. Again, I'd like to thank Chair Fierro and Vice Chair Quintanilla for being able to attend and represent the institution at several meetings with several of the delegations, several of the commissioners. The Speaker of the House, Mrs. Quintanilla, was able to meet with the Speaker of the House, which is all beneficial to what the college is advocating on behalf of the students, faculty, and staff. We held a student success summit here at the Administrative Services Center. The college held this yesterday, February the 24th. in order to really look at the next phase of facilitating student success at the institution. Many kudos to Dr. Tena, who helped coordinate the event. We brought in Dr. Martha Ellis, previous community college president, as well as an associate vice chancellor at University of Texas Systems, to help facilitate the day of really looking at data. Dr. Kay and her team, Mr. Candelas' staff, and Dr. Giron and her team also had a presentation of Civitas and the Illum platform. Again, all looking at an effort to increase the level of student success that we've had at the institution, to begin to prioritize the many initiatives that we have related to student success, looking on the return on investment, which initiatives have the largest impact, serve the most students, and increase student success the most. A visiting team from the Southern Association of Colleges and Schools, the Commission on Colleges, SAC-COC, will be visiting El Paso Community College next week, March 3rd through the 5th. This visit is to review our dual credit programs, and they will be visiting partners, our partner ISDs throughout the region. We've held a number of meetings with our partners to ensure that we're all ready for the visit, to highlight the best things that are occurring as a result of dual credit for the visiting team. But they will be here next week, March 3rd through the 5th. Texas Workforce Commission and Commissioner Hope Andrade will launch an online resource for recruiting veterans and connecting them to the Texas Employers Commission on Thursday, March the 5th at 11 o'clock here at the ASC in Building B foyer. If our board can attend, we'd love for our board members to be able to attend, but Commissioner Andrade will be here to launch that here in El Paso. It's a statewide initiative that they're launching out of El Paso. And then finally, I know the staff and our faculty and students in particular are looking forward to the college observing spring break beginning on Saturday, March the 7th and running through Sunday, March the 15th. Chair Fierro, that concludes my report.
Thank you, Dr. Sorata.
Item 1.11, consent docket, there are no items. Item 2.0, administration, there are no items. Item 3.1, full-time institutionally funded actions.
Motion approved, 3.1.
Second.
Mrs. Robles.
Aye.
Ms. Solis.
Aye.
Mrs. Quintanilla.
Aye.
Dr. Graham.
No.
Mr. Fierro.
Aye.
Item 3.2, full-time externally funded actions. There are no items. Item 3.3, information items. No action is required. Item 4.1, consideration and deliberation on the option to enter into an interlocal agreement with the National Joint Powers Alliance to participate in the National Purchasing Cooperative.
Motion to approve?
Second.
Mrs. Robles.
Aye.
Ms. Solis.
Aye.
Mrs. Quintanilla.
Aye.
Dr. Graham.
Aye.
Mr. Fierro.
Aye.
Item 4.2, consideration and deliberation on the approval to increase the nursing testing fee effective March 1, 2015.
Motion to approve.
Second.
I have a question for Mr. Smith. Just to clarify, these costs we're just transferring directly to the student, correct? We're not making any...
Correct, Mr. Fierro. We're not making any profit on this. The costs are what we experience at the college are being passed on to the students.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Mrs. Robles.
Aye.
Ms. Solis.
Aye.
Mrs. Quintanilla.
Aye.
Dr. Graham.
Aye.
Mr. Fierro.
Aye.
Item 5.0, physical facilities, there are no items. Item 6.1, consideration and deliberation on the approval of a contract award for testing services to Assessment Technologies Institute, LLC, in the amount not to exceed $250,000 annually.
Motion to approve 6.1 and 6.2.
Second.
Item 6.2, consideration and deliberation on the approval of a contract award for printing services to Signature Offset in an amount not to exceed $55,244 for the first year.
Questions? Okay. We're ready, ma'am.
Mrs. Robles? Ms. Solis?
Aye.
Mrs. Quintanilla?
Aye.
Dr. Graham?
Aye.
Mr. Fierro?
Aye.
Item 7.1, consideration and deliberation on the approval of a contract award for consulting services to FSG in the amount of $63,294.
Move to approve?
Second?
Mrs. Robles? Ms. Solis?
Aye.
Mrs. Quintanilla?
Aye.
Dr. Graham?
Aye.
Mr. Fierro?
Aye.
Item 7.2, consideration and deliberation on the approval of continuing education tuition rates for new courses.
Move to approve.
Sorry.
Motion to approve item agenda 7.2 and 7.3.
Second?
Item 7.3, consideration and deliberation on the approval of continuing education tuition rates for revised courses. Mrs. Robles? Ms. Solis?
Aye.
Mrs. Quintanilla?
Aye.
Dr. Graham?
Aye.
Mr. Fierro?
Aye.
Item 8.0, community services, there are no items. Item 9.0, unfinished business.
Oh, is there any? Did I miss it?
Next board meeting,
Oh, yes, I did miss something. Huh, you haven't given me a date yet.
March 25th.
March 25th.
March 25th.
Oh, let me look at my calendar.
It was in the
March
flyer
25th,
that we got.
5 p.m. Thank you. Motion to adjourn?
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
Which one has me signing off? The use of a check?
No, this one, which is.
That was easy. Easy peasy.
You said it was.